Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. This is the vBrownbag at VMworld on day number 3, the vExpert Daily. I'm filling in for a couple of no-shows, a couple of slackers. Apparently, last night was a little bit rough. So I don't really know how these go. I imagine I'm just supposed to kind of gesture at these guys and they kind of talk and tell me a story about how the show's going so far?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of, I don't know, for me, I don't really attend too many sessions. I like hanging out like here, listening to the tech talks and opening
But if you're not going to sessions, then why are you coming to the show?
Well, I go to Solutions Exchange as well and kind of see the cool stuff that's going on there. And
so you pick up the free tchotchkes, is what you're saying?
No, I don't. I'm not really a swag person, but there's a couple companies that I've visited that got some really amazing stuff. And
any one that stands out this year?
Yeah, is it Ravelo Systems? Highly recommend you go see them. They basically is a I think a PaaS system. They work with Amazon and somebody else, but it just they make it seamless.
Okay.
A lot of automation that you would normally have to do, scripting to get your environment in the cloud. They kind of do it for you through a GUI. Really good. Really good product. I was at Tech Field Day yesterday afternoon, and Zerto demoed their Cloud Fabric feature in their product.
Fabric.
Yeah, it basically is a replication feature.
I thought the fancy word of the year this year was fluid, right?
A lot of liquid.
It was really good, though. You could migrate your environment to cloud for backup purposes.
That's pretty slick.
Those are pretty good things. And I was also suggested to go visit Data Gravity, who
they were up here yesterday afternoon.
Best of VMworld. So that's kind of been my take lately and during the show. What about you?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of things. I'm Julian Wood, by the way. Nice to be here again today. Yeah, I've been going to a number of sessions, Solutions Exchange as well. Just been to a session on vVols with the product team, and they had literally all the engineers and the product manager for vVols. Interestingly, a lot of partners in the session, all asking quite detailed technical questions, so they can go back and plan how to work vVols and how to integrate it into their product suite, which I thought was interesting. I thought all that kind of stuff would have been done since vVols is
doesn't that stuff normally happen in the background, right?
Yeah, I mean, these weren't storage companies, obviously, but backup products and other kind of guys who do things. So yeah, lots of exciting talk about vVols. I think the big issue is an understanding thing. Lots of people not understanding how it all actually works, and protocol endpoints and multipathing and everything. So yeah, it's a whole brave new world. Interesting.
Any vendors that stand out for you that you've?
The Ravelo Systems was nice. I mean, their benefit is that they can run a VMware VMDK on Amazon. So yeah, as is, no translation. Well, there's a translation in the Ravelo software, but no conversion or anything.
Does that also go the other direction? So can you pull that back out into a VM?
So you can pull that back out. It is a VMware VMDK.
Yeah.
So if you want to back something up on Amazon Glacier, well, you could move your VMDK there. In the future, they're going to be bringing out nested ESXi. So that's a big use case in Amazon.
Well now.
So you're going to be able to run training labs or any kind of thing where you want to spin up an ESXi host running on AWS and then VMs on top of that. And their Ravelo little mini hypervisor, which does all the sexiness, will be able to do Intel VT, or pretend it's to simulate Intel VT. So that's cool. Data Gravity, I chatted to them as well. They're awesome. Coho Data as well. That's an interesting take on presenting something like NFS, which doesn't have any multipathing, but handling all the load balancing at the switch. So they can present a single IP address, but any node within the cluster, and it's pretty hugely scalable up to the size of a switch, 48 ports. A single IP address, but yet the load can be balanced across any of those 48 ports, all done with software-defined networking. That's something, a different take on storage.
Okay, pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd like to also, I'm Tim Antonowitz, like to also mention the Data Gravity. I really like the interesting.
So apparently I need to go, I'm getting the hint that I need to go visit the Data Gravity booth.
We can walk over there together, because I need to go over there. I want to go over there today.
Simply the fact that they can inspect on the fly the contents of VMDKs and pull data analytics off of those.
That's kind of scary too, no?
It is, but it's from a corporate perspective, a customer perspective, it's really nice to know did somebody store
Yep,
any
yep,
credit
yep.
cards or social security numbers? Yeah, know that on the fly and
It helps
be able to not
simplify
only know if it's
discovery and all
there,
sorts of stuff. Yeah.
who read it and when.
Yep.
So very good discovery features there that are baked right into the solution, which
All right.
It's
Anything else at
incredible.
the show's caught your fancy? Hands-on labs, sessions.
hands-on labs. I was over there once. It was good.
Okay.
It's my biggest thing from VMware is it's nice to see vVols actually
Coming to fruition.
coming out. We've been waiting for it for what 2-3 years to talking about it. It's been forever since it's
Yep.
going to be there, and it's finally making the forefront, which is about time.
Okay.
For me, it has been mostly going to the vendors on the side. Yeah, almost broke my finger, never mind. Long story. For me, it's been going to the vendors which are on the sides, mostly.
Yes, yes.
There were two vendors which popped out. One of them was by the name of Thycotic.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of them. They do security abstraction for anything. In other words, they manage the credentials, including session recording of what happens on the session when you go into an interface of any kind of device, which is also very interesting. And the second one
Okay.
was a company called vMetrics, which does data encryption in any cloud, in any device, which was also very, very interesting.
And the little innovation center in the back with the, they have these little pop-up in a ring or so way in the back.
They're
Those
very
guys-
small booths. I actually went past and I didn't see anything which was extremely, made me go, wow. But
Not right out, but there's a couple in there.
there are a few which have got very interesting ideas, that's for sure.
Yep.
And hopefully next year they'll have a slightly bigger booth, and the year after a bigger booth and a bigger booth. Yeah.
Actually, talking Solutions Exchange, nearish the VMware, well, at the VMware booth, but behind it is the CTO booth from VMware. And these are, they've got a number of panels up on the boards, which is all the stuff in the future that VMware is looking at. One of them that was announced was the VM fork technology, where they can instantaneously provision copies of running VMs under a second. So that was talked about in the keynote for something like VDI. If you want to spin up 1,000 VMs, all identical to the initial one with a Delta disk, off it goes. And there's a whole panel on what's called VM fork, a couple of other things, and the engineers who wrote them at the stand. So you can go and sit and chat to the guys who are writing the code for VMware technology that could be years out. So if you're keen on what's coming up, that's definitely worth looking at.
Okay.
And I want to piggyback off that. Had the pleasure of having breakfast with Sudin Gunhoff, who works in the office of CTO, and part of that booth as well is they kind of are introducing a new partner, I guess you could say, with customers.
Okay.
So what they have started is basically having a program where customers can give feedback on features they want, instead of VMware just solely rolling out features that they think customers want, and you just have to use them. And you get to actually talk with engineers as well.
Okay.
And beta testing and all that other kind of stuff. So it was really, I just think that's amazing.
Okay. I see the normal host for this thing has arrived. He's ignoring me. He's pointedly ignoring me now. You're totally supposed to be hosting this thing, aren't you?
No, James doesn't host. He is just James, where we are all not James.
5-minute warning was what I got from Michael. He was supposed to give me a reminder.
Yeah.
5 minutes, but I was 5 minutes out.
That's still
literally.
a reminder.
I'm sorry. You're doing a great job.
I really don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. So,
Well, do you want me to take over?
Will guide you. You're doing well.
okay.
Can I throw something out there?
Go for it.
What is missing
Why don't
at
you hop up and
VMworld,
grab a
be
microphone
it
then?
products or anything? What's VMworld missing, or what's VMware missing in a product suite that hasn't been answered while we're here?
To tell you the truth, I don't know, because there's a lot of stuff flying around. They are reaching out, from what I see, they're reaching out in all different kinds of directions, going to OpenStack, going to containers, going to hybrid cloud, managing other clouds, network software-defined storage. They're trying to reach out into every possible manner they are.
Yep.
If there's something which is specifically missing, I'm not 100% sure if I can answer that, because I don't think I can pinpoint a specific point. I don't know if you had any ideas about that.
Well, of course.
Well, thank you. No, To kind of touch on that, it's kind of scary these days, the amount of products that they're taking on, I think. Because when you start taking on a lot of products like that, you lose your focus, okay? And that's scary for where we're at these days, right? Because we've got all these new technologies coming, all these new ways of doing things. If we lose focus now, I mean, it's going to be a lot of trouble. So, I don't know. I'm kind of scared, to be honest.
Well, I think VMware is undertaking, they are now ownership of 4 planes of their infrastructure: storage, networking, where they had just partners do that, and they had the bare metal hypervisor layer or software-based, whatever. Now they own all of it, and so, they've diversified, which helps them grow. But you're right. I mean, when do you stop? You can. I like Cisco, but I know a few years back they bought so many companies, they diversified too much, and it was too complex. Is VMware going to do that now, or are they going to ease back, kind of let the market play out with their new products, Evo Rail, Evo Rack, or where are they going to go?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because they're going wider and deeper in the entire stack. But at what point do you push out your ecosystem and turn them into competitors? And then people start looking at, well, maybe VMware doesn't have the solution because all these other people are doing something else. And do you integrate it, or do you break off into a different direction? It gets tough when you own more of it and you squeeze the selection or the variety out. People want to make other decisions, and sometimes it's going to move completely to another stack or something, as opposed to going the VMware way. I think that's a challenge that may come up in the next year or two.
Yeah, definitely with the breadth of products brings up some challenges that VMware has. For example, even a simple construct like a virtual machine is represented completely differently in vSphere, in vCloud Director, in vCAC as a blueprint, templates included. And that's already, if you're trying to even automate or try to manage those kind of things, even the simple thing like a VM is actually different things in all these different products. And obviously with vCloud Director disappearing more into a multi-tenanted thing for service providers, yet the actual network multi-tenancy is intended for NSX. vCAC being the big orchestration with now a funny new name. There's a lot of jostling and positioning of products that are splitting apart and reforming into other things, which is confusing for customers, and it's going to take time. I think VMware building up their management portfolio is a hugely important thing, but there's definitely stuff to do. Look at Evo Rails. They've realized that the complexity of their management suite needs to be addressed with a really simple new engine, not in Flash, HTML5, click, 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 deploy VM.
Absolutely.
He just assumed I had something to say.
Was I wrong?
No, but I think, like I said, I think we're in a key point right now. We know what VMware is trying to accomplish. We know what their vision is. Let's just hope that they keep it and they keep true to their art, and we continue to move forward. Because the last thing we need is all of these products that we think are innovation being the bane of our infrastructures, being that part that brings us to our knees raising. But anyways, that's all I got to say about that, Julian.
I had one more thing. The fact that I do think there is one thing I just thought about. The fact that in one session which I attended about a technical preview of Evo Rack, in other words, they were planning on managing the whole life cycle of the infrastructure itself. And one thing which popped out to me was the fact that if you're managing the life cycle of the infrastructure, you also have to manage the life cycle not only of the virtual machines and the ESX servers, but also of vCenter, your login site, your VCAC, your operations manager. Everything has to be done, also seamless upgrades. And currently, those things are not there. You can't in place upgrade or without zero downtime upgrade your login site or your VCOps. I hope and I assume from what I heard in the session that these things will be coming in the future, but at the moment they're not there.
And I think that's a great point. I think, and going with what Julian said as well, I mean, they have all this new, the Evos and stuff like that things new come out. I think they need to kind of integrate where they need to integrate, combine where they need to combine, keep separate where they need to keep separate, name what they want to name them, and just kind of let it play out and just kind of ease up for a little bit, and then hear from the customers, what features do you want, where are we lacking, supply bug fixes, implement something like seamless upgrades and stuff like that, and then kind of look and see where they're at, see where the market's at, see where they need to expand and diversify and move forward. But there's just been a lot of movement for them right now, and it's you're exactly right. It's hard to keep up right now.
Yeah, and just being wider and deeper, it's hard to keep track of everything that's going on at the same time, and focus is getting tougher. Used to be you'd just be a vSphere guy.
So how much of that change in focus is also the change that's starting in the industry again? Like, we had a period of time where things settled, we got used to this virtualization thing and so on. Now we've got Docker and OpenStack and all sorts of fun other things happening. So how much of it is VMware like hedging their bets by getting their fingers into everything?
That may be part of the case of they don't want to miss out on anything, so they're going to try to hit everything as much as they can and try to bring as much possible back to the mothership. But as they're growing, they may not be the most agile player out there. Depending on how where they put their focus, the other players out there may be quicker and more agile, get to the solution better or have a better product, and it becomes a matter of, well, do you play the big fish and acquire them and bring them back in? And they've been doing that, bringing in new technologies. Now they need to really work at integrating it all so it all works together instead of just rebranding the splash screen and saying, there you go, it's a new product. That doesn't always work. We need some actual real integration and standards across the board.
I want to bring something up and ask your guys' thoughts about what do you think VMware missed by their new release? For example, they announced 4 vCPUs for fault-tolerant VMs. Do you think that's actually a good thing now, or do you think they missed the boat when that probably should have been happening like a few years ago or something maybe? I just saw something on Twitter when they announced it. Scott Lowe had mentioned, well, there wasn't that much Horizon in the crowd when that was announced. And he just said, interesting, wondered why. I kind of replied to him like, I think they missed the boat. Maybe you could add a selling point there using fault tolerance for 4 vCPUs, but in years you only could use 1. So do you think they missed the boat with that feature enhancement?
I think it's very late. Missed the boat, probably not, because I don't think anyone else can do it. So in a way, they're the only boats. I mean, they have talked about the engineering challenge to do it was like sending a man on the moon. I don't know what that means. But
we do that with a TI calculator, right?
Yeah. But nobody else does it. That's still something. It was annoying having only one CPU. The interesting thing now with fault tolerance is that it also creates a whole separate VM, which can be on a separate data store. So you can actually have a fault-tolerant protected VM up to 4 CPUs, also on separate storage, each VM on separate storage. So that also protects you against storage, because it's great to fault-tolerance a VM all running on the same array. Something goes on the array, and what you thought was your critical machine is dead. So, yeah.
It also feels like that kind of goes anti the direction that they're pushing everything, which is, you need to separate your apps and your eggs into different distributed little baskets, and then having a fault-tolerant thing that's much more fragile. Like,
well, I think you're right. They want us to actually start moving all of that into the application layer instead of, we should be designing our applications in a resilient manner. Okay, we've got resilient infrastructure now, right? So now we need to worry about the apps where we can, right? If we develop the app, it needs to be developed in a resilient manner. Okay, we can't always rely on somebody else to provide that resiliency. I mean, at some point, that level of resiliency is not going to be there. So we were actually sitting yesterday in one of the VCDX panel discussions, and this came up. The whole fault-tolerant deal. I mean, at what point do we use it now? I mean, it was cool when they showed it to us, 3 years ago? Everyone was like, oh, we can do this.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. You can do it, but do you really need it? I mean, is it worth all the extra pieces now that we have to do all of the other costs that are incurred because of it?
And the application that's running in it, is it cheaper to rewrite the app than to build the infrastructure to support for vCPU FT?
But I think that's the point, that that's the option, that there are huge amounts of applications that aren't cloud-enabled apps. It's not so simple to rewrite your financial trading application from a vendor when you can tick a box and say, there's now more protection than I had before.
But there's also new applications that are always up and coming, in the Fiserv space, Mint and Personal Capital and so on. At least on the personal finance side, on the business finance side, they're also evolving fairly quickly. You're looking at a data migration at that point. That's not without its own set of complexities.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, it's an option.
Yeah.
Fault tolerance isn't full protection. If something happens within the OS, that's
it's screwed up
immediately
in both
replicated,
places.
or the application, it's immediately replicated to the other node,
Yep.
and you're dead. So yeah, it's an option.
And multiprocessor fault tolerant should be your last option for high availability. You should look at the application stack, look at some other way within the application to make that available instead of, okay, don't just jump at multiprocessor fault tolerance, because that's probably not the best way to do it. Do it somewhere else, and if you absolutely have to, then progress onto that level.
In this specific case, I would have liked to seen some more work done in the fact of actually providing a clustering layer built into VMware for the application. In other words, recognizing at the moment there's App HA, which is built for certain applications very specifically, but it would be very nice to see that expanded for almost anything you have. It would be able to manage any kind of service on any virtual machine and able to restart it or move it to a different second node if possible. That would be something very nice to see, but it's not there yet.
True.
Well, talking about availability, vCenter is still not in any way, shape, or form available. In fact, with the Heartbeat product being yanked out and retired, and of course you can go to Neverfail and do it directly. I mean, vCenter's big now, it's important. If you're running your cloud, or you're running your VDI and your vCenter's down, bye-bye cloud, bye-bye VDI. Yeah.
Go ahead, just drop the mic. Just drop the mic.
And we're done.
Show's over, and we're up.
It's time to eat their own dog food there, and you want to make it highly available, make your
All of
management
it highly
stack
available.
highly available as well.
Right.
I don't know. I think we're at about 5 minutes. Is that right? I'm looking for an adult. 5. Okay.
All right. So,
All right. Do we want to take questions from the audience?
we could take questions. Yep.
So we're talking about complexity, right? We're going wider, deeper, but we've also seen announcements around SaaS offerings, right? So do you think that some of the roadmap, some of the solutions to the complexity question is to hide some of that complexity behind a service, so to speak, also hiding some of the upgrade headaches?
Okay, so the question, I'm just going to repeat it back. The question is that you're looking at the complexity and how the SaaS offerings kind of put up a facade, right?
I mean, essentially, it takes some of the complexity out of that hands to be able to do vRealize Air,
Okay, all right. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think that's the case. I mean, anytime you look at any as a service offering, period, that's kind of what the point is. The point is we don't care what the end user knows about our infrastructure because it's just that pool of resources, right? It's just a big glob of resources. That's all we want them to know, is that it's going to be there when they need it, right? So we put this as a service offering in front of them to take that complexity out. The choices that they have to make and all of those decisions that are required in the back end to support your application. So we take that out by providing that front-end portal, right? I mean, that's the whole point. That's where we're trying to go, right? We want people to feel at ease when they're using stuff, so I think...
Yeah, the whole as-a-service model is to take the complexity out of the end-user side. It's still there. It's potentially it's even more complex on the back end, but we're managing and taking on that complexity to make everybody else's life easier.
That's why these guys have jobs.
Yeah.
For admins, then if they're hosting that allows the parent organization VMware to be a little more aggressive in
Exactly. The complexity. Well, the complexity on the back end is, we take that on. We try to make it more integrated and easier for us, but it's still a very complex organization. We just want to take that away from the end user or even the sysadmin on the front end of those services, make their lives a little bit easier,
Yep.
more simplified on that side. But the complexity will always be there. I mean, that's why I'm not on the help desk now.
you
Manage the
think-
complexity.
Now, do you think that's could be where VMware is going to make vCenter and all its management tools highly available, maybe to use their now legacy hybrid product to VC Air?
I do think so, because up until now, just to go back for 1 second to the question you had before, we are trying to provide a seamless interface to our users. But it doesn't make it easier for the administrators in the back end to manage all of that. So I think the step with everything which they're doing with Evo is a very, very good step in the right direction. It's making the actual provisioning of the infrastructure behind also as an offering or as a service, even though it all happens in the back end, but it's offloaded to a piece of software to do it for you, which also makes the administrator's life easier.
Absolutely, I agree.
It's a two-sided answer for your question, basically. I mean, because there's two sides to it, right? That touch on it, yeah, maybe.
All right, so 2
Anybody
minutes.
else?
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts here, Joe. I have none.
Final thoughts for me. This conference is
I mean,
about
it's not
technology.
final. We
Well,
have tomorrow, right?
true.
But
for today.
Final thoughts for
Yeah,
this panel.
this conference is about technology, but it's also about people.
yes.
The people in the community and the ecosystem that we've created, together is what's driving this. Get out and meet people, network. Try to find at least 5 people you've never met in real life and say hi. Extend your network, extend the community, and get them to tune into the brown bags. It's a great free resource to learn all this technology. You're foolish if you don't tune
If
in
you say
and
so.
get and participate.
Yeah, I mean, there is just so much overwhelming content that VMworld produces. A lot of that content can be caught up beforehand, but as Tim says, meeting the people here and all of us flying from different parts of the world, literally just to be here for a few days to talk and have the conversations,
Yep.
is so much more important than can be so much more important than a lot of the sessions, which is information you could get elsewhere. So yeah, make the most of it.
I personally don't believe in any must-attend sessions. I don't like when those get tweeted out. Go to sessions that are important to you, your growth, or your organization, things that you may implement. Network, get involved, engage, say hi.
I have nothing else to say but +1 for everything that's been said over here.
All right, I think we're done. Thank you, guys.